welcome to another explainer from Ethical Point. We're so glad you're joining us today. Look, we are jumping right into a massive real-world administrative dilemma. We're unpacking a high-yield UPSC General Studies Paper 4 case study focused on the escalating clash between rapid artificial intelligence innovation and environmental sustainability.
Oh, I am so ready for this. As an aspiring civil servant, navigating these modern ethical minefields is absolutely crucial. We aren't just talking about abstract philosophy up in the clouds today. We are looking at exactly how a corporate leader or even a public regulator actually handles the very real, very messy consequences of the AI boom.
Exactly. It's about application. And to make this incredibly concrete for us, we're going to analyze the case of ABC Incorporated. They are the second largest tech company worldwide, but here's the twist. They are headquartered in the global south, right in the developing world. So imagine you are the CEO. Let me show you the crisis that literally just landed on your desk. No way, 48%? That is a staggering jump.
It really is. That number represents the massive spike in greenhouse gas emissions from ABC Inc. between 2019 and 2023.
Wait, just in 4 years?
Yep, just 4 years. And the culprit? It's the surging energy requirements of their data centers, which are being completely fueled by the exponential expansion of AI. Look, training AI models requires a mind-boggling amount of computational power and electricity.
Right, so let me put my CEO hat on. My company is innovating at light speed, but we are simultaneously burning through energy, skyrocketing our carbon footprint, and sparking absolute outrage from environmental activists and regulators. That's a serious crisis. Precisely. So how do we tackle this? Here's our case study roadmap for today. Number 1, the AI trilemma. 2, mapping stakeholders. 3, core ethical conflicts. 4, the global South defense. 5, sustainable AI solutions. And finally, number 6, our UPSC answer writing strategy.
Sounds like the perfect plan of attack. Let's get right into it.
All right, section 1, the AI trilemma. Let's identify the fundamental friction at the heart of this whole scenario. Okay, so a trilemma implies 3 competing forces, like a 3-way tug of war. What exactly is the core conflict for a modern CEO here?
It really all comes down to the triple bottom line. In layman's terms, the old way of doing business just looked at one bottom line, right? Profit. How much money did we make at the end of the day? But modern, ethical corporate governance demands a balance of 3 Ps. You've got people, meaning our societal impact, planet, meaning our environmental footprint, and profit, our financial viability.
Got it. So the trilemma for ABC Inc. is trying to maintain that rapid technological innovation and corporate profitability while also answering to the heavy moral responsibility of protecting both the environment and society. That is the ultimate balancing act. Moving right along to section 2, mapping competing stakeholders. We need to see exactly who is demanding what from the CEO. Okay, looking at this, what's really striking is how completely divided these pressures are. Right there in the middle, you have the CEO, the main decision maker.
Right, which is you in this case study.
And on one side, you've got the shareholders. They are aggressively demanding profitability, growth, and market value. They want us to push AI to the absolute limits to beat out the competition. But then on the exact opposite side, environmental activists and future generations are demanding a livable planet and climate justice.
It's a real pressure cooker, and it brilliantly illustrates the administrative burden. Because you also have employees who just want job security, customers demanding affordable AI tools, and regulators enforcing strict compliance. It's like every single group is pulling the CEO in a totally different direction.
All right, section 3, core ethical conflicts. Let's break down the moral imperatives clashing in that boardroom. Okay, I'll play the skeptic for a second. As a CEO, isn't my only actual job to make money for the people who invested in my company? I mean, that's fiduciary duty, right? It's a legal and ethical obligation to act in the best financial interest of the shareholders. If I don't innovate in AI fast enough, we lose our market share and I fail my fiduciary duty. That's a totally fair argument from a purely capitalist perspective. But you also have to answer to the social contract. In ethical theory, the social contract is this implicit agreement between a corporation and society itself. Society allows the business to operate. We provide the roads, the infrastructure, the workforce, and in return, the business has a strict moral obligation not to harm the public good. Accelerating a catastrophic climate crisis? That definitely violates the contract. You just can't prioritize fiduciary duty in a vacuum anymore. And that brings us to an even deeper ethical layer, which is entirely unique to where ABC Inc. is located. We call this the development paradox. Okay, let me make sure I'm fully grasping this. ABC Inc. is in a developing nation in the global south. So they have a fundamental right to development. They need to build up their industries, create secure jobs, and literally lift millions of people out of poverty. Yes, absolutely. But the paradox, the incredibly painful contradiction here, is that the resulting carbon emissions from this rapid growth often disproportionately worsen climate impacts in their very own vulnerable regions. They are essentially forced to pollute their own backyard just to catch up economically with the West. It creates massive, undeniable concerns around intergenerational equity. Are we basically stealing a livable future from our own children just to grow the economy today? This brings us to Section 4, the Global South's defense. How do we defend ourselves logically and ethically? Which leads us to a massive, slightly controversial question. Should the Global South be penalized for an infrastructure lag? I mean, is it really fair to punish a company in a developing nation just because their local power grid still relies heavily on coal, whereas some massive tech giant in California can easily plug into a mature green energy network? It is a fantastic question. Penalizing the company for the local grid's carbon intensity actually punishes their geographic location, not their intent. And fortunately, there is a formal international principle that backs up this exact defense.
It's called Common but Differentiated Responsibilities, or CBDR.
Let's break that down for our listeners who might be new to the term.
Sure thing. So, common means everyone on Earth has a shared responsibility to fight climate change. But differentiated means that responsibility shouldn't look exactly the same for everyone. The industrialized global North has been polluting for well over a century to build up their massive wealth. The developing global South, they are just starting. So CBDR argues it is deeply unethical to slap uniform industry penalties on a developing nation that hasn't historically benefited from that carbon-heavy industrialization.
Ah, I see. So penalizing ABC Inc. heavily could actually kill the only major global South competitor in the AI space, which would just lead to a Western monopoly on artificial intelligence. Wow. That is a really strong ethical defense against unfair sanctions.
It really is. But moving to Section 5, Sustainable AI Solutions. Because just having a defense isn't enough, is it? An ethical administrator doesn't just make excuses. They actually solve the problem. Let's pivot from philosophical debate to administrative action. How do we fix this emissions crisis? Our first major solution is algorithmic parsimony.
Okay, parsimony basically means being careful with resources, right? Like being a little bit stingy.
Exactly. In the tech world right now, the whole trend is bigger is better. We're building massive AI models that eat up enough electricity to power a small country. Algorithmic parsimony is essentially putting AI on a diet. It's a major shift toward green computing. It means prioritizing small language models that are highly efficient. They give you, say, 90% of the utility for a tiny fraction of the carbon cost.
That is brilliant. And this perfectly aligns with the ethical theory of utilitarianism, right? You're maximizing the greatest good, which are the benefits of AI, while intentionally minimizing the greatest harm, which is environmental destruction.
And, algorithmic parsimony is just one piece of a broader administrative strategy, which the source material calls a sustainable by design framework.
Spot on. Walk us through some of those practical measures.
Absolutely. First, you've got internal carbon pricing. This means charging internal business units an actual fee for the energy they use, forcing them to be efficient, and then using those internal funds for a net zero goal. Second, mandating that any new data centers must connect to a grid with at least 60% renewable energy.
Oh, and my personal favorite, dynamic workload routing.
Yes, this is so cool. It's routing data processing tasks across the globe to wherever solar or wind energy is peaking at that exact moment. Plus, things like recycling hardware, reusing server heat to warm local communities, and critically, linking executive bonuses to ESG, environmental, social, and governance performance. Basically, if the CEO wants a fat bonus, they have to hit those sustainability targets.
Now that is exactly how effective administration transforms lofty ethical theory into hard, actionable corporate policy.
Finally, Section 6, UPSC Answer Strategy. Let's bring all this theory back down to earth for the exam. How do you, the aspiring civil servant listening to this, translate today's intellectual debate into a high-scoring blueprint for your GS Paper 4 exam? Well, this framework is absolute gold for exam prep. Here is your exact step-by-step layout for a 20-mark case study. Step 1. In your intro, please don't just summarize the prompt. Immediately define the core issue using technical vocabulary. Call it the ethical trilemma and explicitly cite the triple bottom line. Step 2. For immediate action, focus on transparency. State that you would publicly acknowledge the emission spike and order an internal green audit. Step 3. In the body of your answer, showcase your deep ethical analysis. Contrast fiduciary duty against the public good, and crucially, invoke that CBDR principle to defend the Global South context. Step 4, finally, the way forward. Don't be vague here. Propose the concrete sustainable by design framework we just discussed. Following that exact structure shows the examiner you have both conceptual clarity and serious administrative acumen. But to really seal your exam answer, you want to leave a lasting impression of conscientious leadership. A powerful conclusion is vital. I highly recommend using this framing to summarize the intergenerational equity at stake. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children.
It is such a beautiful quote, and it perfectly captures exactly why environmental stewardship has to be balanced with innovation.
It really does. But it also leaves us with a pretty profound, maybe even slightly unsettling question as future administrators. If our blind pursuit of artificial intelligence ends up destroying the very natural world it was meant to improve, was it truly progress at all? We want you to think critically about that one. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Ethical Point.